Musashi hand control is based on using these two cards, the 5 rings and Taunting Blow. The 5 rings is one of Musashi's Jade cards that uses 2 focus, stays in play after being used, and lets you use a variety of effects after successfully resolving an Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, or Void card. The most important of these for us is using 1 focus to make the opponent discard a card, as it can be used to greatly diminish the opponent's options. We want to get 5 rings out as soon as possible with this deck, so a decent amount of the deck will be based around getting focus and drawing cards. And Taunting Blow is the other main piece of this deck, as it can be used as an instant additional whenever you successfully resolve a Musashi attack or defense, including 5 rings cards to switch to yellow or red, hobble your opponent, and make them discard either an attack or defense. Using both 5 rings and Taunting Blow means that your opponent discards 2 cards at the same time, and landing this combo twice usually means you won the game, as even if your opponent drew back a full hand, you probably got to land some free hits from it. Now, of course, this is a very specific combo, but the deck exists to both get it out quickly and to get the same results without it. For that, we have 5 different types of cards in the deck. Firstly are the cards to build focus. There isn't much to say here other than that our game plan requires a lot of focus, 2 for playing 5 rings and 1 for every time we want to use its effect. Thankfully, Musashi's Kama tree and character exclusive cards make this quite a lot easier. Next up are draw cards. I put Musashi's score in here because it does let you draw 3 cards, letting you easily deep draw without even having to draw any of the other draw cards. The deck does still run a lot of draw, however, as sometimes you don't exactly want to use a core card when you need to replenish your hand. Sometimes you will, for example, want an instant like with Duty, or an attack on top of it like with Crescent Slash. Now, after cards that let us use 5 rings, we have cards that put us in a situation safely to put it into play. 5 rings is a meditation with no movement, and so we want to be a safe distance from our opponent to play it, or at least put the opponent in a situation where they are the ones that have to defend. Now, aside from Taunting Blow and 5 rings, we of course have other cards that help us either discard from the opponent or put stuns onto the opponent. You preferably want to be doing a combination of these, making the opponent have to use field bandages to recover their hand, giving you a free hit early game a lot of the time, and this part of the deck lets you achieve this goal without even having to draw into its 2 main pieces, giving you a decent plan B on top of it. And lastly, another thing you will use your focus for, instants. Musashi already gets to use instants fairly freely due to almost always having advantage due to his core card. However, making your opponent lose their options makes them also more susceptible to either being hit or blocked by many instants. These do, of course, require a lot of focus from you, so make sure to have a decent reserve of focus at all times in the late game. Without it, you will be a lot less threatening. 5 rings is our main game plan. I talked about it enough, but do remember you can also get focus and cards from it if you're lacking in either. Backhand Slash is the only other card that you have access to that discards 1 card from the opponent for no additional cost. It also hits at pretty good angles with the Omni movement and 1 turn in green, and is a threatening counterattack if you are in yellow. Taunting Blow is your other main piece. A lot of the times you will be going into red to make the opponent discard a defense, and then you are threatening any one of your many attacks. Do try not to draw too many though. If you have one in your hand and a decent enough hand to back it up, it is better to save your draws for later, as having too many in your hand or having to discard any puts you in a pretty bad spot. Pummel Smash is a simple inclusion. It gives a stun and hits at nice angles in green, which we want to be in. I really don't need to say anything more. Stone Block is just here because it gives the opponent a stun. It is a decent enough block. It gives you focus in yellow, and if you manage to get a counter in yellow, you are threatening both 2 Heaven's Cut and Backhand Slash at the highest counter, and even at 4 you're threatening 1 hit of Backhand Slash. Boken Smash is your last way to apply stuns. Usually you will use this if the opponent is trying to pivot around you or they are standing right behind you by using your core weapon, Katana Cut. No matter which weapon you run though, Boken Smash will be useful in corner case scenarios to put more pressure onto your opponent with your core weapon. Duty is a staple card, though you can consider cutting it in this deck as it makes your opponent refill their hand too. Though usually it is just a fallback plan if things aren't going well. You also don't care about losing the focus a lot of the time, as Musashi can recover it fairly quickly. Calm Composure is the main reason we are on the Jade River Circuit School, as it is the best restricted card for the list. It is an easy and instant way to both dig through our deck and gain focus while also switching Kamae, which Musashi just so happens to like. Swift Mind is the deck's main approach if the opponent is running away, and an easy way to get some draws. It can even be used to dodge some slower moves at speed 6, especially if the opponent is hobbled. I don't think I need to justify field bandages. If you aren't including field bandages and preparing it in your deck, you are just unprepared for a lot of matchups. You will be screwed over by stuns, and you will regret it. As mentioned before, Musashi's core lets him draw 3 cards, but it also lets you take advantage at any time. Make good use of this because it will make your life a whole lot easier. Crescent Slash is just a really easy to hit instant replacement that also draws extra cards. One of the big reasons why you always want to have one focus at all times in the late game is exactly to threaten this card. 2 Heaven's Cut is a 2 wound hit that you can use off of most of your counters, or just to try and go through your opponent's blocks to hit Taunting Blow. Keep in mind, as a free synth, this card is no longer an instant additional, so you can't just be getting 2 free wounds as you were able to before. Dirt Throw is just another way to pressure the opponent with instants. If they decide to go for a core when you blocked, this is an easier place to force them to start shifting Kamae instead of whatever they were planning to do. Rushing Water Slice is a 5 rings attack. It builds focus, it changes Kamae, hits at speed 7, draws cards, and does your dishes while it's at it. This card is insane. It does almost everything and makes Musashi 10 times scarier just by existing. And Dancing Fire Slash is just as threatening, and it is another reason that you always want to have focus. If you have 1 focus and are in green and are in an insane number of angles, you are at the very least threatening 1 wound, and a lot of the times you are threatening your opponent for 2 wounds on 2 separate hits, making it also a very hard attack to block, making it a very easy Taunting Blow outlet. This is just an insane card. Make sure to always play as if you have it, even if you don't. Your opponent will have to respect it no matter what. Horizontal Cut is just a very fast attack in your preferred Kamae, and it changes you into it if you aren't in it already. Because we already played it at school, it is just an easy, brainless inclusion. Katana Cut is there to always let you hit opponents standing behind you. Because it also gives a stun, it means even any trades from an opponent behind you can, in some ways, be advantageous for you, so don't be afraid to take those trades. Hidden Void Block is your one way to trigger 2 elemental cards at once if you manage to land a counter. You would mostly want this to block in yellow, so you have a wider pool of cards to use, but in reality you don't even care if you use this as just a block. The counter is just a bonus. Emergency Block and Evasive Step are just really good cards, and Musashi does not really care about their downsides. There's really no reason not to include them. Standing Earth is your usual 5 rings block. It blocks twice for up to 2 focus and costs nothing if it whiffs, and it covers literally every angle at initiative 5 or lower because you get 2 turns in yellow. Of course, if you aren't in yellow, well, it's just this, but even if it is just this, it's still really good. Circling Defense is just a good disengage defense for the deck. It is really good in green, and it can use up focus to make it an even better disengage. Draws in yellow, and it is a similar thing for Graceful Step. It is a good dodge in your most common Kamae and switches your Kamae after. Just simple brain dead inclusion. Calm Defense is the second card you prepare with Field Bandages. It helps you build focus and covers an insane amount of angles in green. It is also good disengage and puts you into Fire Slash angle if you were in point blank, making it very, very threatening. Wind Slash is just a generally fine card. It lets you threaten down left, builds focus, and is a must include considering that it is a 5 rings card. Nothing flashy to end on, but this card will a lot of the times be at least a useful tool. Now, looking at a few scenarios, let's say that it is round start. If you are facing an opponent with higher advantage, of course you want to steal it back with your core turn 1. After that, farm focus and maybe try to close in. You don't need to make the approach very fast because you don't really care about being far away. Even if your opponent does run away, this isn't really an issue for you as you can comfortably just keep drawing 3 with your core every turn, and you're of course always threatening to play Swift Mind or 5 rings to take things into your favor. You will preferably want to engage with Fire Slash at angles such as this or this to let you deal a nice bit of damage. Of course, if you got the bled early on, you want to try and quickly make distance and patch it up. The deck runs a lot of one-off cards and cards you want to use multiple times. On top of the fact that you are meant to be drawing a lot in your standard game plan, it makes it very important to stop bleeds and makes even running a second field bandages sometimes worth it. Mid-game, you want to be threatening your instants as much as possible. You should preferably always have at least some focus on you, preferably several, and just using your good cards with them as protection. This means that if you have a good instant attack, you should just keep blocking until you can use it, and if you have a good instant block, you should just keep attacking until you can't anymore. The deck is almost completely full of attacks and defenses, so you should almost always be able to either lay on the pressure or defend against it. And you will almost always want to be in green at this stage of the game. When you are in green, it means that you are threatening speed 8 horizontal cut, you're threatening an approaching water slice by going into red, you are threatening a 2 wound fire slash, a backing up graceful step, a 5 counter void block, so on, so forth. You are just really oppressive in green, and jumping into and out of it is just going to be a really good way for you to get focus in the late game, but you do want to be in it as much as possible if you are directly in your opponent's face. And lastly, as for what cards I would recommend if you want to change this deck up, there are a few. Taunt is the first gold I'd put in the deck. Just uses 1 focus to make the opponent discard a card, but since the deck already runs 8 golds, you will have to replace something for it. Now, Diagonal Slash is highly recommended if you're removing a few cards based on the gimmick of hand control. The card is really good, it just does not advance the deck's game plan, though I'd still say it is worth it if you just want a better deck. And if you are running Diagonal Slash, you will almost always want to also include Forest Step. It is one of the most free ways to set up a Diagonal Slash, and with Musashi it is also one of the easiest ways to set up some of your scariest attacks, such as a 2 damage Fire Slash. The thing about it is that Musashi very rarely has to look the opponent dead on, which makes it pretty telegraphed when you're gonna use it. However, there isn't really much some characters can do about this. Launching Thrust is a bit more of a meme inclusion, but it is still a decent punish if your opponent is trying to predict a Fire Slash in yellow. It can also be a good approach if your opponent does not respect your range 3 while you are in red, which they a lot of the times will not be, as, well, Musashi just doesn't have tools for that on his own. And lastly, Cross Kick is just a cracked card for any character that can build focus very well. Hobbles are an invaluable tool for a fast character like Musashi, and with also running Taunting Blows Hobbles, you can very easily make a situation where your speed 8 attacks just straight up become unblockable. Thank you a lot for watching. The links to the Senjutsu community Discord, my Discord, and some other links are in the description. I'd love if you left a like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more, and of course, just check out Senjutsu. This game is awesome, and it needs more people trying it out.